Good evening, everyone. Hope everyone's dug out of the snow that we had. Welcome to this evening's meeting. It's Monday, February 14th, 2022. This is the meeting of the Fall River Housing Authority. Martha, will you call the...
Yes. Chairwoman Sahadi.
Here.
Vice Chairman Underhill.
Here.
Commissioner Burns is absent. Commissioner Bentley.
Here.
Commissioner Medeiros.
Here.
Attorney Souza, the open meeting law, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The language for the open meeting law would be as follows. Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived, by those present and are deemed acknowledged and permissible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
First item on the agenda is citizen input. Do we have anyone here for citizens input? Seeing no one, do we have anyone for residents input? Good evening. How are you today?
Good. Valentine's Day.
Same to you.
And yes, we're all dug out of the flurry we had yesterday.
Flurries, huh? I don't know if I'd call it quite that.
The news media called it. All right, quick and simple. We're planning some elections. We're going to have an election here and at Cardinal Medeiros Towers to start. Then come towards the end of March, beginning of April, we're going to try to do Holmes and Olivera.
Okay.
Beyond that, we're looking for more volunteers in the different developments. We just picked up 2, some at Cattell and at Pleasant View. They'll be starting probably week after next. We're going to put out some flyers in the buildings that don't have anyone, hoping to find somebody. We're also looking for Tenant volunteers. Well, we can't get officers. We're going to put flyers out for that. I got to talk to Karen about how to get the flyers to the family developments. Because the plan is, we need people to put out, Rita LeBeau, Tenant Services, Joey, myself. We all need flyers out and note residents to be notified of what's going on. I know Bobby Bailey's working on doing something electronically. Until that gets going, we need to be able to get to them. So we're going to try to find some volunteers in a different development that they would just hand out, post flyers, be there to do different things. And beyond that, it's been quiet. It's winter.
Quiet. Good. It's winter. It's winter, so it is quiet.
Thank you.
Ed, excuse me, about the farmer's market.
Oh, God, yes, thank you. I forgot about the farmer's market. We had a meeting last week about the farmer's market. Cardinal Medeiros will again be hosting one of the 3 farmer's markets. They're looking for a 4th location. Don't know where that's going to be. I'll be talking to, maybe I should ask today, Kevin. They're looking to put a permanent sign up, similar to the one that we have at Cardinal, Fall River Joint Tenants Council. They'd like to put one up at Cardinal. Do you think that would be a problem?
We can discuss it.
Okay, they want to bolt it to the building, similar to it,
yeah.
rather than put out the different signs. And it's a different time. Where we were doing 2 to 5 at Cardinal, we weren't getting anybody from the neighborhood. We weren't getting from the surgery center or any of those locations, because they're not on break, they're working and they're heading to go home. So we talked the farmer to going from, instead of 2 to 5, to do 11 to 2, with the hope that we'll be able to get folks from the different, from the different businesses in the area to show up during their lunch hour. But we are having one, and it will be starting the first week in June.
See, and I was hoping you'd say after 5.
As long as you all approve having it, I should ask. It's up to you. It's up to you folks if you want us to have it.
Oh, sure. No, I thought it was a great idea. I
know you did.
I've actually been there. So, but after 5 would actually have been better for me.
I'm sorry.
As opposed to the middle of the day.
We've got Truesdale Clinic where.
Yeah, no, you're 100% correct.
We're trying to get them to come over.
And people do leave for lunch, so
and
it
they
would
can
be
come over
great.
at lunchtime. I mean, if 5 o'clock on a Friday or 4 o'clock when you get out of work, do you really want to come over
Right.
to,
Agreed.
Yeah.
I agree.
You want to get out of Dodge on a
I
Friday.
agree.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, David.
Next item on the agenda is the minutes of the postponed annual meeting held on January 24th, 2022. Do we have a motion to accept the minutes?
Motion to accept minutes.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
The next item is bills and communications. You have the vouchers in your package. The recommended action is to accept the vouchers. Do I have a motion to accept?
So
Motion
moved.
to accept.
Second.
Any questions with regard to them? I see that we have our finance director here, if we have any questions. No questions? Okay. Item 4 is the management reports. Item 4 is 8 management reports. 1 is applications, 2 is the occupancy report, 3 is the tenant accounts receivable, 4 are the work order reports, 5 is the monthly Section 8 voucher activity report, 6 is the monthly personnel count/report, 7 is the Director of Monetization's monthly report, and 8 is the bank investment and bond debt balance report. Do I have a motion to accept those reports?
I make a motion to accept the reports as listed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Item 5 is the financial reports. 5A is the financial report through the period, the report itself says November 2021, but the agenda says December.
I would say go by what is on the financial
Report? Okay, the financial report is for the period November 2021. Do I have a motion to accept the financial report?
Is it, excuse me, it's December?
Oh, it's December, so the report needs to be updated.
The cover sheet says November, I apologize, but the reports themselves are all December.
Okay, thank you. There was just a little confusion. So the financial reports as of December 2021. Do I have a motion to accept those reports?
Motion to accept.
Second.
Any questions or concerns with regard to these reports? Again, we have our finance director here this evening to answer any questions. Hearing no questions, all in favor?
Aye.
Item B is the state quarterly modernization report. It's for the period ended December 31, 2021. Do I have a motion to accept the state quarterly modernization report?
Make a motion to accept the state quarterly modernization report.
Second.
Any questions for the finance department? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Item C is the state quarterly operating statements. Those, again, are in your packet for the period ended 12/31/2021. Do I have a motion to accept the state quarterly operating statements?
Motion to accept the state quarterly operating statement.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions, again, for the finance department? Hearing no questions, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Item D is an agenda item. That is the State Budget Revision 1, and this is for the fiscal year ended March 31, 2022, and it's for the 400-1 program. The recommended action is to approve the budget revision. Do I have a motion to approve the budget revision?
Motion to approve the budget revision.
Second.
Any questions with regard to this revision? No questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Item 6 is an update from the Deputy Executive Director.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a few items I wanted to touch on. I'll try to be brief. First, I want to thank all the commissioners for having the confidence in me to lead the Housing Authority during this time of transition. I can tell you that no one will work harder in a more honest and transparent way to protect the best interests of the Fall River Housing Authority. So I do appreciate you giving me that opportunity and having that confidence in me. The next thing I would like is to acknowledge our facilities department leaders, Ed Majewski, Joe Pimentel, and Mike Laniers, for the outstanding job they did during these snowstorms. We had the blizzard 3 weeks ago, we had the ice storm last week, and then yesterday, somewhat of a surprise storm. I had the pleasure to be out with Mike Laniers on when we had the blizzard, and he does an unbelievable job with the coordination of where everyone's going, what needs to be done, the relationship with the city for sanding and the use of Watuppa Heights. So I just wanted to acknowledge them, and I feel the Housing Authority is very fortunate to have those three gentlemen running the facilities department. They do a great job. The next thing I have to mention, the Procurement Department, Tim McCoy and his staff, we're working on a security camera service and maintenance contract. We currently have a vendor where his contract will be expiring or may have expired, and we don't have anything in place. So Tim is working very diligently to get something out. We're hoping we'll have it on the street either the end of this month or the beginning of March.
In the meantime, are we needing to extend that contract for another month? Because we've extended it once, I believe.
We may have extended it once or twice.
Okay.
So I believe I'll be speaking with Tim to see if we can do another 30-day extension just to bridge the gap.
Okay, thank you.
See what's best. Joey De Silva, Resident Service Coordinator, is also working with the City of Fall River's Health Department and Health First. We're collaborating again to do vaccine clinics at our family sites. There's a strong outreach to try to get more of the family residents to get vaccinated and boosted. So he's been working diligently with them to get that done. We had our first meeting with the union only to establish ground rules, so really nothing to report on. We're meeting again in March to start to get into the negotiations. And lastly, we will be restructuring the management department to correlate with what we did in the facilities department a few years ago, where there'll be a site manager and their staff paired up with a site maintenance leader and their staff. It's worked extremely well. We've been successful on the facilities end, and we're all very excited. I think we're going to have a lot more efficiency, raise the level of customer service to our residents with a more cohesive relationship. They'll almost be, the goal is that they operate almost as an independent housing authority and have a better working relationship with one another. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions for Kevin? Good job, thank you.
Thanks.
And thank you for stepping up, too.
Oh, you're welcome.
Next item on the agenda is new business. Item 1 is modernization. A is a certificate of substantial completion for the exterior building envelope/balcony repairs and roof replacement at the James A. O'Brien Senior Apartments. The recommended action is approval. So a motion to approve the certificate of substantial completion.
Motion to approve certificate of substantial completion.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or concerns? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Item B is a change order number 4 for basement upgrades at Maple Gardens. Change order number 4 is an increase in the amount of $6,372.88 for providing additional switch/wiring for the basement lighting in each of the 3 petition spaces within the 4 townhouses, buildings 15 to 18, and 3 additional days to complete the work. The recommended action here is approval.
I make a motion to approve the change order.
Second?
Thank you. Any questions with regard to this change order? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Item 2 is miscellaneous. A is a lead-based paint certificate of compliance. The recommended action is execution of the certificate by each of the commissioners and the deputy executive director. Do I have a motion to execute the certificate? Or Kevin, do you want to describe this in any further detail?
This is just an annual certificate of compliance that we have to submit, just to show that all our buildings are in compliance with the lead laws, and it has to be signed by the commissioners and myself. So we do this annually.
Motion to accept the lead-based paint certificate of compliance.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item B is the conflict of interest law summary, acknowledgement of receipt. The recommended action is execution of the acknowledgement of receipt by each of the commissioners. Did everyone receive the acknowledgement? We're all good? Do I have a motion then?
Motion to approve the execution of acknowledgement.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Item C is plumbing fixture contracts. The recommended action is to award a 1-year indefinite quantities contract to Simon Supply, Plumber Supply, and Supply New England in the amount not to exceed $40,000 each.
Motion to award 1-year indefinite quantity contracts to Simon's Supply, Plumber Supply, and Supply New England.
Second.
Do I have to finish? In the amount of not to exceed $40,000 each.
Any questions? So it's 3, not to exceed $40,000 each. All in favor?
Aye.
Item D is the Network Systems Administrator contract. The recommended action is to award a 2-year contract to MTSI in the amount of $153,860. Kevin, do you want to tell us a little bit more about this particular contract?
Sure. So this was slated to be on last month's agenda. That was the topic where Tim felt rather than go to a vendor, have a full-time position. But we discussed that the position that he had on the agenda was a combination of security camera, maintenance, and network technology. Who knows how long, if and when we could fill a full-time position. I felt it was best then. I still feel strongly that the best interest of the Housing Authority is to have a vendor. This vendor has good references. They have a contract with Government Center, the Fall River Fire Department, the Fall River Police Department. I think that the size of our organization, we need a good-size company that this vendor offers 9 full-time engineers at their Fairhaven office. So we went out to bid, and we got 3 proposals.
Yeah, I was going to say, there were three responses for this. Does anyone have any questions?
Yes. So obviously, I see, they're not the highest, nor are they the lowest among the bidders. But I do have a question. So this is a 2-year commitment,
It is.
and at some point, if there's any issues with how the level of service that we're receiving, how do we determine if we want to end the contract prior to 2 years? Is there any groundwork around or framework around, determining the success or satisfaction of the vendor?
So there's always language, Commissioner, in our contracts where if a vendor is not performing or meeting the language of the contract, the scope of service, or what we put out, there's always legal remedies to terminate a contract if they're not performing or meeting expectations.
Yeah. This is our first time using this vendor, correct?
First time using this vendor, yes, and the current vendor we have for this was extremely part-time hours. It was like 8 hours a week, and we just felt as an organization, communication in our staff meetings, that we've far outgrown that vendor. Very knowledgeable, very personal, but we just feel we're a little too big for the current vendor that we have now.
And is the future intention to hire someone after 2 years, or is that just going to be see how this relationship works out and then decide down the road?
Well, I think this will be a good test and sample of that to see how well it works. We have various vendor contracts for various items, and sometimes, we tweak it and feel that we continue with that or add more services to a renewal, or do we go the route of hiring a full-time staff person? So 153, you're looking at about $78,000 a year. If you were to hire a full-time person, if you could get a competent, reputable person, you're going to pay all of that per year plus benefits. I think this is a good way to see how we navigate through this. And we might find in 2 years that it's better to go with a full-time person. But at least this gives us the time to do it, to put together a solid job description. We need something.
Yeah.
Is there a minimum number of hours that they're providing us in this contract per week?
I want to say it's 20. I think it's 20. Don't hold me to it. I'd have to go back to the spec on what we put out.
Have they been working for the city and police and fire for a few years, or?
They've been with the city for a lot of years.
I want to
at
say
least
20 years with government center.
Yeah, and since the most recent IT director's been there, which I think is 6 years, they've provided the city with a lot of additional services as well. They have multiple contracts with the city.
I think it's $200 a week. I just signed the invoice today. So it's not 20 hours, it's probably about 10, right? That would be-
No, there's no
That's
contract
Okay.
with them. We're asking for the board to vote for a contract, so you wouldn't have anything.
Okay.
So we don't have the contract.
No,
Yeah.
No,
That was my
what I was saying-
thought.
Well, I didn't know
I was
whether
saying,
we had a
like,
draft.
I signed for the cover computer store today, so it was $200 a week.
Gotcha. Any more questions? Are we good? Okay, do I have a motion to award this 2-year contract to MTSI?
Motion to award 2-year contract to MTSI.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item E is the installation of a Keltron radio signal devices at 7 sites. The recommended action is to permission to advertise for the installation of these devices at Doolin Apartments, Bait Tower Apartments, Mitchell Heights, O'Brien Apartments, Father DeFarios Village, Olivera Apartments, and Holmes Apartments. This is permission to advertise.
Madam Chair, can I speak on this agenda item?
You certainly may. Mr. McCoy, come to the table.
Good evening, everybody. Happy Valentine's Day.
Did not
It's good to
see you
all.
behind the
Hiding.
pillar.
Hiding. Very upset with the pending lockout of spring training. Very, very upset. That's for another conversation.
You and me both, since I already have tickets.
I was planning on going for the first time in 18, 19 years, and now we may not have spring training games. But regarding this matter, and I'm glad we get to talk about it, because again, for our viewers at home, or more particularly our residents, but again, not just our residents, the citizens of Fall River, we get to discuss it with some transparency. I wanted to, in a discussion over the last maybe 10 days with Arthur and modernization, and the modernization, or Mr. Anderson, our director of modernization is going to fund this particular project. I wanted to secure an agenda item to advertise, okay? I will be asking that this item be pulled, if that's possible, whatever we have to do properly and procedurally in an open meeting law, and ask for basically a no vote, or I won't be asking for any action of the board tonight on this, and let me explain why. Several years ago, and as a matter of fact, the city of Fall River got to this item in 2016. We were probably 7 or 8 years behind the recommendation of the statewide fire boards and fire chief boards. The state was asking the local fire departments of cities and towns to take a lead on doing a request for proposal and setting up these wireless radio transmitters to accomplish a couple things. And I'm going back a ways, but if my memory serves me correctly, improve response time and also get away from the banner lines and hard lines that Verizon was kind of doing away with throughout the city. So what we did, I was a part of that. It was around the time where I was transitioning from the city of Fall River to housing, but on weekends still continued to work with the fire department to get this done. We had the benefit of a couple of court cases where there was I won't mention the city and town, but we had 2 cases where they had solicited improperly. So we had the benefit of seeing the mistakes of two other entities in Massachusetts, and we were able to put it out. And by virtue of doing that, businesses and other political subdivisions in Fall River would be allowed to piggyback off of that selection. So the fire department was asked to be the lead agency to work on these boxes, and what was ultimately selected was the Keltron boxes. Now, so in other words, we could, as the local housing authority, piggyback off of that selection that the fire department made several years ago. However, we did elect to do several sites a few years back, and what we did was we solicited prices for the electrical hookups of these boxes. So in other words, from a proprietary standpoint, we did request the Keltrons, but to stimulate some competition, we solicited quotes actually for the wiring and the hookup of the boxes, okay? The project, however, could not be complete because the standard electrician in the city could not do the final programming of the boxes with the fire department. So while we did do, a solicitation out to electricians to get the best price possible, the job couldn't be completed without the distributors of the Keltron boxes. So in other words, as I sit in front of you today, if I look to advertise, whether we did a straight, construction quote under an IFB, or even a request for proposals, which is not typically done in a construction case, but to put it out there, we could not achieve finality for the project because there isn't anyone who could do the final programming, with the fire department to get these boxes operational. And again, to get to the ultimate goal of a quicker response time, the more of these Keltrons that go up around the city, these wireless transmitters, they function with the fire panel to get an expedited response of the fire department. If in fact get a request to permission to advertise for this type of project, we really couldn't take it to finality. Now, the remaining sites that we have here, 7, fortunately, we have done this in the past. It will not exceed the threshold in Massachusetts of $50,000 where you could procure a one-time procurement of anything and use the sole source exemption, so to speak, that's out there to do something like this. So my suggestion is, I'm not looking for any action of the board tonight. I'm withdrawing the request, the permission to advertise, because this can be done. It meets the criteria to be done under a sole source procurement. There is only one practicable source to get us to where the Keltron boxes are operational. So the need to advertise is moot, basically, and we can do this under the 50. There are some sole source procurements you can make in excess of $50,000. They're typically educational materials, utilities, things of that nature. But we're not going to exceed, with the 7 remaining sites, we're not going to exceed a contract in $50,000 in value. So I don't need any, my recommendation to the board is to basically, I don't know, and not ignore the agenda item, but basically, I don't need action on this. I don't need permission to advertise. Now that we've had an extra week to research it, and we've actually have some experience in soliciting quotes on this particular matter, we can procure this and get these things programmed under a sole source procurement.
And so you won't ever really need to advertise, so we won't table it either?
I won't need to, correct.
Okay.
Correct, so I don't need it tabled,
Okay.
essentially. I don't know if, again, I defer to Corporation Counsel. I don't know if it can just lay in limbo, or if it's a situation where it's removed from the agenda, but I guess I do not need a formal action by virtue of a vote to advertise here. So I'll defer to Corporation Counsel as to what we have to do from a procedural standpoint, if anything.
Since it's an agenda item, you can refrain from making a motion to pass, and then it would die as an item. It just doesn't pass. So we could do it that way.
To
So
make a motion?
If there's a motion to be made, the board can refrain from making a motion, and the item would die.
Okay.
And obviously, I'm willing to entertain any question on the brief little summation that I just provided to you all.
Can I ask a question? Without really knowing, what does this have to do with? Like,
It stimulates it connects with our fire panel, Commissioner Underhill,
Okay.
and it allows, it's more of a radio wireless system
Wireless
to
message.
allow for
is that
quicker.
is that what we have at Cardinal right now?
I believe, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so Cardinal has it. I took on the installation a couple years ago. We were still down personnel, and I'm not even sure if Kevin was still director of facilities at that point, but maybe there was the quick transition at the time, but I was dealing with Baresi and Cartel. But that's the function that it provides, David. And again, the more of them that you have around the city, it also adds to a quicker response time. So there are businesses also in the city who've taken on the Keltrons.
It's the more modern, it's faster, more efficient signal to the fire department, which currently some of the older systems, the antiquated, the phone lines. And
Just on a personal note, the one at Cardinal has been beeping for 4 straight days.
It could be the fire panel?
And both the fire department have been there, and our in-house electricians have been there, and it's still beeping 24 hours a day.
It could be. That was most likely, though, the panel, though. And I mean, I don't know if you could add anything to that, because I don't think the boxes themselves signal that way, but I
Yeah.
could be wrong.
So we just did a rustic fire inspection there, quarterly inspection. There is an issue with the panel that, as they actually try to go out and redo all the devices. It's not picking up one of them.
Okay.
The company's aware of it. It will be taken care of under warranty.
Okay, it's not a big thing, I mean, it's
Yeah.
just, everybody asks me
Yeah.
because they know.
The Keltron box is not tied to that, though, in any way. It's not making it beep.
Okay.
The Keltron box, once it gets called in, that's when the Keltron box comes into effect.
I got you.
And then at that point in time, it does it by a radio signal only,
Okay.
by actually like a cell phone.
Right.
And in today's world, just to explain, I don't know if I'm going to make it, I hope I'm going to make it a little bit clearer. We have actually problems with the banner lines. They go underground a lot in a lot of our buildings, and they're shorting out. And believe it or not, the telephone company today, they don't make any money on those. So sometimes it takes days for them to respond, and we're talking about a fire service
Yeah.
line.
Yeah.
So this is a much more modern, much more easier to use line.
So that's activated by someone pulling an alarm? It
Anything the-
automatically notifies the fire?
Yes, and anytime, even a trouble signal, which is what you have at Cardinal right now, it's a trouble signal. Even at that, it'll respond to the fire department will respond to it. But if it's a not health and safety, it'll be a trouble signal only. But if it's a fire signal, it's the same way. The Keltron, it reports exactly what that fire panel is saying to the fire department. So it's just a more modern type of system to use.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So if I can elaborate with 2 quick points, just to give a little bit more information. When I did go out and solicit quotes, not only is it impractical because the final programming cannot be done until you go back to the vendor with the Keltrons, your standard electrician, while they can wire it and hook it up, also can't clear out the existing defaults that may be on an existing fire panel, which all those defaults have to be cleared out. So again, you're going back to the distributor and installer of the Keltrons working with the fire department on that particular panel, because you need all the troubleshoots to be cleared out. And again, sometimes those trouble messages on a fire department, there may be hundreds of them that are existing there, but it just happens that it's not triggering a call again. All of those have to be canceled out, so you always have to bring back the Keltron folks to get the system operational. And secondarily, David, again, the banner lines to go back, we were probably locally, and again, ironically, we were ahead of the curve because several towns had problems or they didn't pick it up right away. But you had fire chiefs, fire chief association and your state fire boards. Yeah, most cities and towns didn't even act right away. There was, like 10 years go by, and it's like, listen, Verizon is not going to continue to service the underground hard lines and the banner lines and whatnot. There's going to be a problem sooner or later. And then finally in 2016, we started dealing with it as a municipality, and now, we're catching up on the housing side and getting all the properties modernized and get them up to speed.
Just one more thing also, if we end up with a down banner line at a site, say at Cardinal, Sunset, if the fire department cannot be notified of a fire at these sites, we have to actually put a fire watch on. So we've had fire watches on with 4 days where we've had people around the clock because somebody has to watch for the panel and call the fire department if there's a fire. So this is a much easier way of doing it. We're not relying on the local phone company to do that banner line anymore.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, do I have a motion for permission to advertise? Hearing no motion, the item fails. Item F, uniform physical site inspections, the REAC inspection contract, the recommended action to be made at the board meeting. The bids are due 2/14/22. So it's to award the contract to the U.S. Inspection Group Incorporated in the amount of $20,126.70, payable upon completion and receipt of the inspection report. This is for the REAC inspection contract. Do I have a motion?
Motion to award contract to U.S. Inspection Group in an amount of $20,126.70, payable upon completion and receipt of inspection report.
Do I have a second?
Can I ask you a question? Is this the group we use in the past?
Currently, yeah,
Okay.
we've awarded to them the last 2 times.
Thank you.
For a second.
Second.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Item 3 is personnel, maintenance leader position. The recommended action is to approve an in-house posting and an outside advertising on the website for this position.
If I could just add, we want 2 positions. We have an interim person, and according to the union, that's going to be posted as a permanent. And then the other position, with the new structuring and the retirement of our FMM, we need another leader. So it's actually going to be for 2.
So this item is for 2 positions, 2 maintenance leader positions. Again, the approval, the recommended action is approval of an in-house posting as well as the outside advertising. Do I have a motion to post this position?
I make a motion to post the positions.
Second.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Item B is the Management Department Housing Support Assistant position. Again, the recommended action is to approve the job description, the in-house posting, and the outside advertising on the website.
What is this position, Tim?
So this is a new position that will work under the Associate Director of Property Management as part of the restructuring. This adds to their staff to be used as a clerk, to be used out in the field as a clerk, in the Tenant Selection Department as a clerk, to assist with the sharer that she's currently working on, or other things in the future. It's kind of her assistant, but to be used as a courier and a receptionist when needed. We have long-term employees that have 5-6 weeks vacation a year, unfortunately, when people are out on sick leave. So with this position, it helps with the management of the new restructuring in that department.
Thank you.
And the description for this position is in your packet. Do I have a motion to approve this job description and do the advertising for the position?
I make a motion to approve the Management Department Housing Support Assistant position.
Second.
Second. Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Item C is the clerk interviewer position. This is the Public Housing Department. The recommended action is to approve the in-house posting and the outside advertising. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item D is the clerk interviewer position. This is the Tenant Selection Department. The recommended action is to approve the appointment of Lisica Azzurro?
Azola.
Do I have a motion to approve that appointment?
Motion to approve the appointment of Lizika Arzola.
Second.
Second.
Martha, roll call, please.
Commissioner Maderas?
Yes.
Commissioner Underhill?
Yes.
Commissioner Bentley?
Yes.
Chairwoman Sahadi?
Yes. Item E is the Executive Director job description and advertisement. The recommended action is approval. This was previously approved by DHCD.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any questions? Do we know where we're going to advertise this?
Several outlets. Tim Burke, our Human Resource Director, can explain the different outlets.
So we've already started the process. DHCD has approved the new ad. And we've been in touch with the Boston Globe, the Herald News, the Bay State Banner, El Mundo. We're still trying to reach out to Providence Journal and Santam. And then it's also on Mass Narrow, Nev Narrow, and with the Mass Higher Career Center. So it's on all their websites also.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion to advertise, to accept the job description and advertise for the executive director's position?
I make a motion to accept the job description and to advertise.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item F is an executive director search. The recommended action is permission to advertise for, didn't we just do that?
We combined them, but
Oh.
it's two separate items.
I'm like, didn't I just do that? Sorry. Item F is the executive director search. We did just vote to advertise, but this is permission to advertise for the new executive director in various newspapers, websites, et cetera, in accordance with DHCD's requirements and guidelines. So, again, I know it's a repeat, but can I have a motion to satisfy item F?
Motion to advertise.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item G is the interim executive director. The recommended action is to ratify the appointment of Kevin Spadella effective April 1, 2022.
I make a motion to ratify the appointment of Kevin Spardella, effective April 1st, 2022.
Second.
Any questions? Martha, roll call, please.
Commissioner Bentley?
Yes.
Commissioner Underhill?
Yes.
Commissioner Maderas?
Yes.
Chairwoman Sahadi?
Yes. That is the end of the agenda in open session. We have 3 items to go into executive session this evening. Item A is an employee incident report, and item B is the Maple Gardens litigation update. Both of these items, the anticipated executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares. Item C is the executive director's contract update. This is to review some correspondence in the anticipated executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, subsection 2, is to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel. Do I have a motion to go into executive session?
I make a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, yes, so at this particular point, we will be going into executive session. This is the end of the Housing Authority meeting. We will not be coming out of executive session, and there'll be no additional discussion this evening.
And a motion to
So
adjourn
we
will
will
be
have,
made.
the motion to adjourn will be made in executive session.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Oh, yes, so at this particular point, we will be going into executive session. This is the end of the Housing Authority meeting. We will not be coming out of the executive session, and there'll be no additional discussion this evening.
And a motion to
So
adjourn
we
will
will
be
have,
made.
the motion to adjourn will be made in executive session.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.